The African Union was created to unite Africa. It was created to defend African people. It was created to promote peace, human rights, democracy, and dignity. But today, many Africans are asking a painful question. Where is the African Union when Africans are suffering? Where is the African Union when African migrants are attacked in South Africa? Where is the African Union when people are beaten, chased, blamed, and treated like criminals simply because they are from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Malawi, Mozambique, Somalia, Ethiopia, Congo, or another African country? Where is the African Union when Africans are afraid inside Africa? This is why many people now believe the African Union is no longer fit for purpose. Not because Africa does not need unity. Africa needs unity more than ever. But the African Union, as it works today, has failed to protect that unity. It has failed to defend ordinary Africans. It has failed to speak strongly when African lives are in danger. And one of the clearest examples is the issue of xenophobia in South Africa. Xenophobia in South Africa is not new. For many years, foreign African nationals have faced attacks, threats, harassment, looting, discrimination, and political scapegoating. Human Rights Watch has reported repeated xenophobic violence and dangerous anti-migrant rhetoric in South Africa, including attacks on foreign nationals and the blaming of migrants for social and economic problems. Human Rights Watch 1. These are not just statistics. These are real people. A Malawian father trying to feed his family. A Zimbabwean mother trying to work. A Nigerian student trying to study. A Somali shopkeeper trying to survive. A Congolese refugee running away from war, only to face hate in another African country. And what does the African Union do? Mostly statements. Mostly silence. Mostly meetings. Mostly speeches. But where is the serious action? Where is the pressure on South Africa? Where is the protection plan for African migrants? Where is the African Union fact-finding mission? Where is the emergency summit? Where is the African Union court action? Where is the Continental campaign telling Africans that no African is a foreigner in Africa? This is the failure. The African Union speaks about Pan-Africanism, but when Africans are attacked by other Africans, it behaves like the problem is too uncomfortable to touch. The African Union's own constitutive act says one of its objectives is to achieve greater unity and solidarity between African countries and African peoples. It also says the Union should promote peace, security, stability, democracy, good governance, and human rights. But what is the meaning of African unity if Africans can be hunted in another African country? What is the meaning of solidarity if African governments only speak when their own citizens are attacked, but the continental body stays weak? What is the meaning of human rights if the African Union cannot strongly defend migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and poor workers? The AU also says it has the right to intervene in member states in grave circumstances such as war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. It also says it respects human rights, the rule of law, good governance, and the sanctity of human life. Of course, xenophobia may not always fit the legal definition of genocide or war crimes. But this is not an excuse for silence. The AU does not need to send an army to act. It can investigate. It can condemn clearly. It can pressure governments. It can demand accountability. It can create a continental protection system. It can send observers. It can support victims. It can use the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. It can call out leaders who use migrants as scapegoats. It can make xenophobia a major continental issue. But instead, the AU often acts like a club of presidents, not a union of people. That is the core problem. The African Union protects state power more than it protects African citizens. It is strong when organizing summits. It is strong when taking photos. It is strong when releasing long communiques. But it is weak when ordinary Africans need real protection. In South Africa, xenophobia is often linked to unemployment, poverty, crime, poor service delivery, and anger against government failure. But foreign Africans did not create South Africa's unemployment crisis. Foreign Africans did not create corruption. Foreign Africans did not create inequality. Foreign Africans did not steal public money. Foreign Africans did not fail to build houses, hospitals, schools, or jobs. Yet they are often blamed because they are easy targets. This is dangerous. When politicians allow people to blame migrants, they are escaping responsibility. And when the African Union stays quiet, it also becomes part of the problem. The AU should tell South Africa clearly, your economic problems cannot be solved by attacking Africans. Your political failures cannot be hidden behind hatred of migrants. Your people's pain is real, but attacking other Africans is not the answer. The African Union should have a continental anti-xenophobia policy. It should create a rapid response mechanism for attacks against African migrants. It should publish yearly reports naming countries where Africans are unsafe. It should push member states to punish hate crimes. It should support education campaigns in schools, media, and communities. It should make sure African governments protect all Africans, not only their own citizens. But the AU has failed to do this seriously. And this failure is bigger than South Africa. Across the continent, the African Union has often failed to act early and strongly. In Sudan, war has destroyed lives while diplomacy has been too weak. In Ethiopia's Tigray conflict, critics argued that the AU was slow, limited, and too close to the government because its headquarters are in Addis Ababa. In several coups across West Africa and the Sahel, the AU suspended countries, but suspension alone did not restore democracy. In many conflicts, the AU arrives late, speaks carefully, and leaves ordinary people asking, who is protecting us? The AU is not completely useless. It has helped in some peace processes. It has election observation missions. It has institutions. It has the African Commission. It helped broker the Pretoria Agreement that ended the main phase of the Tigray War in 2022, although the situation remains fragile. Reuters, too. But a union cannot survive on small successes while ignoring big failures. A union must be judged by its purpose. And the purpose of the African Union is not just to exist. Its purpose is to protect African unity, peace, dignity, and development. On that test, it is failing. Now compare the AU with other unions. The European Union is not perfect. It has many problems. But the EU has stronger systems for holding members accountable. Article 7 of the Treaty on European Union can be used when a member state seriously violates EU values, including human rights, democracy, and rule of law. It can even lead to suspension of some rights, including voting rights. Concilium 3. Again, the EU is not perfect. It is often slow. It has double standards. It struggles with migration too, but at least it has stronger legal and financial tools. It can use courts. It can use funding pressure. It can use sanctions. It can force debates. The African Union often has principles on paper, but weak enforcement in real life. Even ECOWAS, a smaller West African bloc, has sometimes acted more directly than the AU. ECOWAS intervened in the Gambia in 2017 after Yahya Jammeh refused to accept election defeat, helping force him to leave power. It has also used military and political pressure in other crises, although it also has many weaknesses. Reuters 4. This shows something important. African institutions can act when they have political will. The problem is not that Africa is incapable. The problem is that the African Union is often too cautious, too slow, and too loyal to governments. The AU talks about African solutions to African problems. But too often, this phrase becomes a slogan. A slogan does not protect migrants. A slogan does not stop mobs. A slogan does not punish hate crimes. A slogan does not rebuild trust. A slogan does not save lives. If the African Union wants to be taken seriously, it must stop being a talking shop. It must become a people's union. That means when Africans are attacked in South Africa, the AU must act as if Africans are being attacked in its own house. Because Africa is supposed to be one house. Today, many ordinary Africans do not feel the African Union in their lives. They know the AU exists because they see summits on TV. They see presidents meeting. They see flags. They see speeches. But when they are in danger, they do not see protection. When they are displaced, they do not see rescue. When they are attacked as migrants, they do not see justice. When they are abused by police, they do not see accountability. When their leaders rig elections or destroy democracy, they do not see strong action. That is why the AU has lost trust. The African Union is not failing because Africa has no problems. Every continent has problems. The AU is failing because it has not built the courage, independence, and power to deal with Africa's problems honestly. It depends too much on member states. It depends too much on leaders who may themselves be part of the problem. It depends too much on foreign funding. The AU's own 2024 financial statements show that member state assessed contributions were 29% of revenue, while partner funds were 43%. This raises a serious question. How can the AU be fully independent if a large part of its funding comes from outside partners? African Union 5. A weakly funded union cannot be a strong protector. A union that depends on presidents cannot easily challenge presidents. A union that fears offending governments cannot defend people. This is why reform is not enough. Africa needs a new political spirit. The AU must choose. Is it a union of leaders or a union of Africans? If it is a union of leaders, then it will continue as it is. Summits, statements, silence, delay, excuses. But if it is a union of Africans, then xenophobia in South Africa must become a continental emergency. Not tomorrow, now, because xenophobia destroys the dream of Pan-Africanism. It tells Africans that colonial borders matter more than African brotherhood. It tells poor Africans to fight each other instead of questioning failed leadership. It turns victims against victims. It makes African unity look fake. And that is why the AU's silence is so painful. South Africa's freedom struggle was supported by many African countries. Many African nations hosted South African exiles. Many Africans stood against apartheid. Many paid a price for South Africa's liberation. So, when African migrants are attacked in South Africa today, it feels like a betrayal of African history. It does not mean all South Africans are xenophobic. Many South Africans reject xenophobia. Many South Africans protect migrants. Many South Africans understand that hatred is wrong, but the problem is serious enough that it needs national and continental action. The South African government must act. But the African Union must also act. The AU cannot say it supports African unity while ignoring anti-African hatred inside Africa. It cannot celebrate Africa Day while Africans are afraid to walk in certain streets. It cannot speak about free movement while migrants are treated like enemies. It cannot speak about Agenda 2063 while African people are being divided by fear. A real African Union would say clearly, an attack on one African is an attack on Africa. A real African Union would demand justice for victims. A real African Union would pressure South Africa to stop vigilante groups from targeting migrants. A real African Union would challenge political leaders who use foreigners as scapegoats. A real African Union would create safe reporting systems for victims. A real African Union would support legal aid for migrants. A real African Union would collect data on xenophobic attacks. A real African Union would send a mission to meet victims, civil society, and the South African government. A real African Union would make xenophobia a standing agenda item until the violence stops. This is not impossible. It only requires courage.